You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. How are you, Shady?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt?
Man, I'm doing awesome. Let's start with the great news LSU got over the weekend. Tyler Miller, big-time offensive lineman. What can you tell us about him?
Yes, coming out of Laurel, Mississippi, so South Mississippi. And anytime you get into Mississippi and snag a guy who's ranked as the number 2 prospect in Mississippi and on 3 is a big deal. We've known over the years it doesn't matter how good Ole Miss or State are or have been each year to year. They usually hold down that state pretty well. So to go in there and nab the second-best player is huge. And obviously, look, Laurel outside of Hattiesburg isn't that far of a drive from Baton Rouge. So they got in the mix early, and Brad Davis has been on a roll here. Obviously, they have some connections in the area with Donovan Tate, their recruiting specialist, is a Hattiesburg High, a fellow Hattiesburg High grad, myself as well. So he put in some work on this one, and ultimately Miller came in last weekend, Matt, for the junior day, and committed, and then on Sunday, a week later, announced it, and he is on 3, a top 32 prospect, so that puts him in 5-star range, regardless of position, but the number 1 interior offensive lineman, so combo of guard and centers, is considered to be the best prospect in the country, and that gives LSU's number 1 class 11 commitments, and 4 of them ranked to number 1 at their position: quarterback, running back, receiver, and now interior of the line. So doesn't get much better than how they started.
Shea, is there any precedent for that 4 players number 1 at their position in their class?
We don't think so, not in the modern era, which would be considered really the past little more than 20 years, since online recruiting sites have become a big thing and rankings, dating back to the magazines, I'm not sure. But we had thought about that when LSU landed. Bryce Underwood, the number 1 quarterback, Harlan Berry, the number 1 running back, and DeCorey Moore, the number 1 receiver. And our national team looked into it, and it was the first time we found that had happened. So certainly toss in a number 1 player at any other position on offense, and now you've got an interior offensive lineman. No, they're in unprecedented or uncharted waters here.
Is this a guy, Shea, so I keep looking at the 2025 offensive line and realize you're going to lose 4 starters from this year's team. So the 2025 group is going to look completely different. Is Tyler Miller a guy that could realistically play as a freshman? Would that be an expectation?
We'll see. He's a freaky athlete. He's strong. He's got good size. He's 6'5", 310 already. We'll see how he looks as a junior. But I think with what Brad Davis has done, yes, you're having major turnover. As you note, you could start DJ Chester at center this year and in theory lose all 4 of the other starting offensive linemen. We'll see what happens, come a year from now. But they've got guys that Tyree Adams is someone they feel good about as a backup offensive tackle right now, among others. We're seeing DJ Chester move into the rotation, and they've signed as some big-name guys. Weston Davis is a 5-star. They went with 6 offensive line signees this past cycle. They already have 3 now and are starting to load up on even more big-time targets coming in for visits. So I get the sense that Brad Davis sees what everybody sees, and, hey, the room's going to turn over. They recruited well year over year, but this past cycle, and I think this one, when they signed 6, and now they already have 3 committed, that they'll go heavy on the O-line so that you've had a couple of years where, you've brought in 11, 12 new guys that you feel pretty good about and develop them and play them from there.
Shea, what else is ahead on the offensive line for LSU?
Well, Lamont Rogers visits this weekend, as does Micah DeBose. And both those guys are guys we've talked about as potential commits for LSU, at least putting them on commit watch. DeBose has sort of been on commit watch for a bit. He took a visit to Auburn. Now he's coming over to LSU. And Lamont Rogers has kind of visited a number of schools. He's coming out of Texas. But both guys, LSU leads the way on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. So the rich could get richer here soon. If Brad Davis is, pushing these guys to get in the boat and get your spot with 3 commits already in, it won't shock me at all. if they continue to add to it. And Solomon Thomas, one of the best tackles in the country, he'll be by this weekend as he makes about 4 or 5 visits. So kudos to a Baton Rouge native and the longest tenured member of the staff, I guess, right now, and Brad Davis, who's on a roll with her line.
Why? One of the things, and Shea Dixon's with us on Twitter at Shea Dixon on 3 the Bengal Tiger. One of the things that when Tyler Miller committed, I saw the piece out on 3 multiple times. He spoke specifically by name about Brad Davis. What is it, Shea, if you could elaborate about Brad Davis that has made him so effective?
I mean, I just think it's his personality combined with a very straightforward approach. I mean, we've been to practices, right, Matt? I mean, you see how he coached the team up. And these guys go out there and they take visits. For instance, Tyler Miller, and he was there for practice. And, he sat in on team meetings. So they get a feel for him on that side, and then they talk to him as someone who is just recruiting them. And it's obviously, if you've met Brad Davis, a very down-to-earth guy, Baton Rouge native, moved back here, helped take care of his parents, obviously, when he first got back. Family man. I think all of that sort of shines through as a guy who's just kind of in it for the kids and loves developing players and has a pretty good track record. So once Brad Davis sort of gets in there, and look, kudos to the people around him. He surrounds himself with good O-line personnel, people, assistants, to where, as a bit of a team effort, obviously led by him, they've yielded nothing but big results, and everybody seems to enjoy him as a recruiter, and then once they get on campus, they speak highly of him as a coach.
Shea, whenever I look at this class, which has been so impressive, right, the 2025 class that we're talking about, the one thing that gives me a smidge of pause, I mean, look, it's the number 1 class in the country. They're doing unprecedented things. The one thing, though, that's obvious is of the 11 commits, 8 are on the offense. There's only 3 defensive commits so far, and clearly LSU was bad defensively a year ago. What's going on as far as recruiting for 2025 on the defensive side?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a bit of the test study right now on maybe how recruits often view as a whole good and bad, right? And LSU's had 2 Heisman winners in 5 seasons. They put together the number 1 offense in college football this past year. They've got Justin Jefferson and Chase and these guys tearing up the NFL. Decoy and Moore, their 5-star receivers, Odell, to all these guys have sort of been his idols. And when you're having great success on offense, I think that's attracted Bryce Underwood, the best quarterback in America. I mean, if LSU isn't winning 2 Heismans in 5 years and putting together the number 1 offense in college football, are they getting Bryce Underwood? Like, I would think their chances go down. So the success they've had there, and combined with some pretty good recruiting, has provided more than half the commitments in the class and a lot of the top heavy guys. I think defensively, part of what we're viewing is, sure, kids can say, hey, look, if I come early, I could play. They may throw me in early. I could be in the 2 deep. They need help. That is a pitch, but you're not going to have some major flood of guys jumping on board because of that, like you would an offense where it's, hey, I see you've got number 1 player at every position, and you'll have the best offense, and you'll have Heisman winners. Like, I'm in. You got to kind of buckle in and recruit on defense. And they've been on staff 2 months now. Everybody on defense is brand new when it comes to position coaches. So I think as time goes on, we're already seeing Corey Raymond, Bo Davis, Blake Baker, all of these guys. Baker landing a commitment from Charles Ross. They got Jabari Antoine out of Westgate after losing some Westgate guys. So we've seen some guys start to pop, but I think it's really, Matt, they put that board together and said, here's the guys we want. And, Corey wants a different type of a DB than maybe LSU's been recruiting. And the same for Bo Davis on the D-line. And there's nuances to linebackers. So I think they've got a feel for who they want to go after now. And maybe the defensive run really comes with commitments in late spring to summer.
Speaking of which, Shea, last thing, who could pop next? I mean, you mentioned some of the offensive linemen. Is there anybody on the defensive side we should be keeping an eye out for here in the near upcoming future?
Yeah, I think we've always said James Simon, right, the running back out of Calvary Baptist. Zion Williams, if you want to talk about D linemen, is a kid out of Lufkin who was really considered a very heavy lean to Texas because of Bo Davis. So when Bo Davis got here, he starts recruiting him, and he's made multiple trips to Baton Rouge now. So he's one to keep an eye on, I think, defensively. But I think that if we're talking next commit, I could see it continue to be offense. And I think in a way, because of the numbers game, if O-line is starting to fill up, you've got big O-line visitors coming like Micah DeBose, like Lamont Rogers and others. If they get the green light and press them to commit, I could see more guys getting on board and that position group starting to kind of really fill up and be close to done.
He is Shea Dixon, on 3 the Bengal Tiger. Catch him on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Shady, you're the best. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.